You know that feeling when you see a picture of some European city and it's just spotless? And then you look around your own city and, well, it's a different story. It's a super frustrating everyday problem, right? So today, we're going to dive deep into why there's such a huge difference in public cleanliness, especially when we look at a place like India.
Okay, so picture this. One side of the coin, you've got a city like Copenhagen. You can actually find a clean public toilet. The roads don't have potholes. Traffic is quiet. People even know how to stand on one side of the escalator. Now, on the flip side, you have the reality in a lot of Indian cities. We're talking mountains of garbage, footpaths that just disappear, constant nonstop honking, and yeah, litter pretty much everywhere. It's like two totally different planets. And that forces us to ask a really uncomfortable question. So, what's the deal? Are some people just born better? Do they have some special civic sense gene that the rest of us are missing? Let's be real, a lot of us have probably wondered that. But the answer is a huge, emphatic no. It's not about genetics at all. The real reasons are way more complex, and they're probably not what you'd expect.
All right, so here's how we're going to unpack this whole puzzle. First, we'll tackle that big question head-on. Then, we're going to expose 3 hidden barriers to civic sense: caste, the system, and empathy. And we won't just leave you with problems. We'll finish up by looking at a blueprint for how things could actually change.
Right, so we've established this isn't about some person being good and another being bad. The real issue is tangled up in these big societal structures, things we almost never talk about when we're complaining about trash on the street. So what are these hidden roadblocks?
Well, it turns out this whole civic sense thing isn't just one problem. It actually breaks down into 3 big interconnected pieces. First, you've got a social barrier, and this one's all about caste and class. Then there's a systemic barrier, basically failing infrastructure. And finally, an empathy barrier, which is really a breakdown in our sense of community. Let's start with that first one, because it's a biggie.
Okay, so this first barrier is probably the trickiest one to talk about, and it's really deep-seated. It's all about the social hierarchy of caste. For, centuries, this system has created this invisible wall in our minds. It disconnects us from feeling personally responsible for the cleanliness, the spaces we all share.
So here's the core of it. Historically, in India, the actual physical work of cleaning was a job for the lowest castes. And because of that, it was never seen as this shared, noble responsibility for everyone. Instead, deep down, subconsciously, it's seen as a low-status job, something to be ashamed of. It's someone else's job.
Even Mahatma Gandhi saw this huge problem. He said that the person who cleans is like a mother to society. A really powerful idea, right? He was trying to elevate the role of the sanitation worker. But that beautiful ideal crashed right into a very harsh reality. Instead of being respected, these workers are often looked down on. And that just reinforces this toxic idea that cleaning isn't a job for, the important people.
And this is where our own language plays a trick on our minds. The person who collects our trash is often called the kudewala, which literally means the garbage person. But wait a second, who's actually making the garbage? We are, but we pin the label on the person cleaning it up. See how that works? The words we use create this mental distance, letting us shift the responsibility away from ourselves.
Okay, so that's the social barrier. Now let's move on to the second one, which is all about the system. Or, more accurately, the lack of a system. You see, a lot of what we call bad behavior or a lack of civic sense is actually just a totally rational response to a system that's completely broken.
Just think about it for a second. We all complain when we see someone urinating in public, but let's put ourselves in someone else's shoes. Imagine you're a street vendor working a 12-hour shift. The only public toilets are locked, or they're absolutely filthy, or they just don't even exist. What are you supposed to do? It's not about them being bad people. It's about the system completely failing them. And this kind of failure is literally everywhere you look. Flyovers that just randomly shrink from 4 lanes down to 2. Footpaths that just end, forcing people to walk in traffic. The almost complete absence of dustbins in many areas. Road markings that are either faded or just make no sense. When the system itself is pure chaos, how can we possibly expect people to behave in an orderly way?
And here's the really crucial point. Our environment shapes our behavior. We see it all the time. The same person who might throw trash on the street won't dare do it inside a fancy mall or a clean airport. Why? Because the clean, orderly system creates a kind of social pressure to keep it that way. But when a place is already a mess, what's one more piece of garbage, right? It proves people can be clean. They just need a system that actually supports and encourages it.
Which leads us perfectly into our third and final barrier: the empathy deficit. This one's all about the invisible bubbles we live in. We get so disconnected from the lives of people outside our own little social or economic circle that we stop seeing how our actions affect them. I mean, you can literally see this divide drawn on the map of our cities. On one side of the wall, you have these luxury apartments with perfect lawns and swimming pools, and right on the other side, a slum or a mountain of garbage. When we live in such totally different worlds, side by side, it's almost impossible to feel a shared responsibility for the city. You just focus on keeping your own little bubble clean, and everything outside of it feels like, not my problem.
Because at the end of the day, Civic Sense isn't some grand, complicated thing. It's just a million tiny acts of empathy. It's stacking your plates at a food court so the cleaner has an easier time. It's putting on earphones on the bus. It's just thinking for a split second about how your actions might affect the person next to you. When that basic consideration is gone, the whole idea of Civic Sense just falls apart.
Okay, so we've laid out the problems: a social system that passes the buck, a physical system that's broken, and a lack of empathy that keeps us in our bubbles. It sounds pretty bleak, I know. But the good news is, there is actually a clear, step-by-step blueprint for how we can build a much cleaner future. It all comes down to three main pillars. Pillar 1, build the system first. You can't tell people not to litter if there are no dustbins. You can't punish people if there are no clean toilets to use. Infrastructure has to come first. Pillar 2, educate, starting from childhood. This has to be part of the school curriculum. Respect for all kinds of work, and the basics of being a good citizen. And Pillar 3, enforce the rules. And I'm not talking about huge, scary punishments, just small, consistent fines that you know you can't get away with.
So, what does a really good system actually look like? We'll take a look at Denmark. A lot of us struggle just to separate wet and dry waste, right? In Denmark, they sort their trash into 10 different categories. And people actually do it. Why? Because the system is everywhere, it's easy to use, and it just makes sense. It's not just a rule, it's a part of daily life.
And it's not just about trash. Get this, in Copenhagen, a whopping 64% of people commute by bike. That's not because they're all super athletes. It's because the city built a fantastic system of safe, dedicated bike lanes that made cycling the easiest and best option. They built the infrastructure, and the good civic behavior naturally followed.
And you see these kinds of smart ideas working all over the globe. In Japan, kids clean their own schools. It's a tradition called osoji, and it teaches them responsibility from day one. Singapore has a happy toilet rating system to keep public restrooms clean. England actually teaches queuing as a basic part of being a citizen. And Germany has a system that makes plastic bottles valuable so people return them instead of throwing them away. See, it's not magic, it's just smart design.
So when you look at all of this, the path forward isn't some big mystery. It's about fixing those three barriers we talked about: tackling the social issues, building the right infrastructure, and nurturing empathy. The blueprint is right there in front of us. The only real question left is, do we, as a society, actually have the will to build it?